each year, we partner to bring Read Me, a summer community read programming featuring Maine authors to public libraries in their communities across Maine. So this summer, celebrated Maine author recommended Jennifer Lunden's American Breakdown, Our Ailing Nation, My Body's Revolt, and the 19th-Century Woman Who Brought Me Back to Life, and Nick Fuller's Guggen's The Great Transition as must-reads. So if you are interested in these books, please check out your local public library. We have over 60 libraries participating again this year, and we've also infused extra copies of both books into our interlibrary loan system so that there are multiple copies available, particularly if your libraries are doing book groups or whatever, so we can get you the materials. So I'll turn it over to Samson next to kind of talk about the logistics about the recording and Facebook Live and how the chat works, so that we are sure we get all of your questions later to share with Lunden and Gibson.
Yes.
So Samson, go ahead.
So we are recording this event in hopes of making an archive available for everyone. We're also connecting to Facebook, so welcome to everybody joining there. And for those of you joining on Zoom, if you have a question, you can put that in the chat and just type in your question there. For those on Facebook, you can pop your question into the comment section. And as you're probably aware, internet connectivity can sometimes become unstable, and this is definitely true for us here. And as we all come to you from our respective corners of Maine, so should one of us abruptly disappear, know that we're doing our best to get back to you, and thank you for your understanding. This is the first time we're having our author come to a central location to join us, so that's why we had a little bit of technical difficulties, and we're really excited to do that and gain some really top quality video for our archive. Okay, Allison, back to you.
Yeah, great. So let's not delay any further what we've been waiting for. So let me do the introduction for our featured author tonight, and then I will turn it over to Gibson and Lunden. So Jennifer Lunden is the author of American Breakdown, Our Ailing Nation, My Body's Revolt, and the 19th-Century Woman Who Brought Me Back to Life. This was published in 2023 by Harper, which, by the way, received a star review from Booklist, was praised by the Washington Post and the LA Review of Books, and lauded by Hippocampus as a genre-blending masterpiece. Hang on to those words. A dual citizen, Lunden is the recipient of 4 grants from the Canada Council for the Arts, as well as the Maine Arts Fellowship. In 2012, for her healthcare access advocacy work, she was named Maine's Social Worker of the Year. So I want to welcome Lunden and offer my congratulations for being selected as one of the featured authors for Read Me 2025. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Gibson and Lunden, and let's begin the conversation. Can't wait.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Samson. Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. It's lovely to be here with Jennifer Lunden and to talk about this book. I'm excited to get into it with you. We have a fire. We're comfortable. I hope you're somewhere comfortable. It's making a crackling noise over here. So no, this is a really a wonderful way to do it, and I'm glad we get to be here together to have this conversation with you all. I want to ask you a question to start, and then maybe have you read a little bit,
okay,
and then we can keep talking. Allison pointed this out. I want to give her credit, but also I think it's such a way that the book jacket itself describes your book as, quote, a silent spring for the human body, this wide-ranging, genre-crossing literary mystery, which is like a great encapsulation of what this thing is about. And I wondered if you could speak first to the idea of genre crossing and why it was important for that to be in there, what that means to signal that, right? You know, in that kind of front of book text that's like telling the reader something about your book.
Yeah. Okay. Some of the, I mean, the book, I originally was thinking that I would write the book as like an objective third person expert voice. I did not plan to have memoir in it.
Mm.
And v- very quickly I realized that I just felt like it would be hard to get people to read a book that was that. I mean, there are nonfiction, I mean, people read all kinds of books, but I just felt like it was really important to incorporate memoir to invite people in, and also an important piece that I think we'll be reading about more is reading about the story of Alice James.
Yeah.
And I'll just save that part for later. But like for me, writing in segments that are both, segments that are deeply researched and written about history and economics and science, but they're countered with memoir and story.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a way to connect the head and the heart.
Mm.
And in a way, that's kind of what the book is all about.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to write, and that's what I like to read. And so maybe that's why I felt like it was important to put that on the cover.
Yeah, that's great. Do you want to read
Yeah.
that little section to
Let's do
start?
that.
Yeah.
So this is from the second segment in the book. I was 26 years old when I first laid eyes on the gold spine of Jean Strauss's Alice James, a biography, and pulled it down from the shelf. I'd heard about Alice. We had something in common. We'd both been felled by a mysterious fatigue. The book is fragile now. Its cover barely holds on to the spine, and some of the pages are falling out, and most of them bear some kinds of markings. The price, $2.50, is still penciled inside the front cover. Someone else had owned the book before me. When I bought it, I took a purple pen to her name, crossed it out, and wrote my own and the year, 1994. I'd been sick for 5 years. I didn't know then that the book was treasure in my hands. It would become my company, my work, my healing. At the time, I was the living caretaker of a 1789 historic house museum in Maine, its substantial perennial garden laid out in measured decorum inside a white picket fence. When I think now of that garden, I see it bursting in the violent bloom of high summer, stands of white liatris spiking the azure sky, gold rudbeckia 6 feet tall and toppling, aphids on the helianthus, mold on the phlox, weeds overwhelming all the back beds. The garden was too much for me. From the bedroom window on the second floor, I could see the explosion of color, a carnival of red, yellow, purple, and pink. But I rarely looked down upon the garden from the bedroom window, because what I saw more than anything, even from that vantage, was my failure to keep up. For me, the garden was something to be contended with, when I should have been weeding it, taming it, saving it from itself. Instead, I lay in bed in the cool of the oscillating fan, reading about my dead bed comrade, Alice James. In Alice, I met my Victorian counterpart, my kindred spirit, and somehow reading about her, bright, witty, proud, and stuck, I began coming unstuck. Why was Alice sick? Why was I? From my bed, and with the aid of interlibrary loan and a helpful librarian, I set out on a journey to find some answers. I spent years researching American history, 19th century and contemporary toxicology, biology, medical history, economics, environmental history, sociology, chaos theory, and more. And by the time I finished, things were a whole lot clearer.
Thank you for reading that. There's so much research in this book. I mean, the notes of this book alone would spend many, many
The
hours.
book looks like it's thick,
Yeah.
but it's not as long of a read as it looks because a lot of that is notes.
Yeah,
Like
there's
maybe 50 pages.
a
I'm
lot
not
of notes in there. It's really meticulous research, and it's really like a 30-year. I see the book as like a 30-year. I don't know if my math is exactly right, but a 30+ year odyssey of you coming to understand your body, what it needs, what you need, how to survive, how to find meaning and happiness in this crazy world. And obviously also that what that mountain of experience and research can teach all the rest of us.
Yeah.
And you're sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Um, and I just want to say, as a like person who was looking at the book in the last few days and reminding myself of all that, wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, um, what an incredible, as a writer, as a fellow writer, what an incredible story of stamina. And like I'm sure it has I know from reading the book it didn't feel like that all the time, but dogged purpose and stamina over a long, long time to write this book. Um, so I guess so I have a lot of questions related to like the project overall, but at what point did you actually know, or did you tell yourself, I'm writing this book?
Oh, there are a couple layers to that, so I hope I remember the second one,
Sure.
but like the first part is, I mean, when I read that Alice James biography, I was like, I feel like I found my soul sister. And I wouldn't have put it this way, but I felt like I found a context for how I could write about my story. And I knew that I wanted to write not just my story, but my illness, myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, and multiple chemical sensitivity is so stigmatized still by the culture. And think about long COVID now. If you know anybody who has long COVID or you have it yourself, you have probably experienced a similar stigma, though back in 1989, it was worse to the point that the chronic fatigue syndrome was called yuppie flu. It was just really dismissed. And so I wanted to write a book to have a voice so that people would understand this illness is real, it's debilitating, it's not just depression, all that. And so I think I might have been studying for my master's in social work when I found the Alice James biography, or when I read it, not when I found it, but when I read it. And I was busy with school, but the year before I graduated was when I was like, I think I had to write a paper for school, and I decided to write something related to chronic fatigue syndrome. I did a little study, qualitative study, and that was like the start. And then like this wonderful, like, praise be to research librarians. I just went in to the UNE library and I said, like, I am looking for any research where anybody has found a correlation between MECFS and what Alice James had, which was called neurasthenia. And it turned out a handful of people had at that time, far more have now. But she helped me find those original papers, and then like reading the footnotes, and then like finding more papers. So, and because I was ill, like that was something I could do in bed. I could read papers in bed. And so that's what I did for 6 years. I researched before I started writing. And then the second part of the answer is that's also important is I had been writing the book. So I started researching in 2001. In 2015, I wasn't even halfway through. And I was writing whenever I could, and I worked part-time as well. And I just was like, I'm never going to finish this book. And it was starting to feel like this albatross around my neck that I did not want. And I am quite a dogged person, and I'm not really somebody who just quits and gives up on stuff, but I gave myself permission to contemplate
Not
stopping.
Yeah.
There's some law, I don't remember which law it is, but there's a law of like when you've put a certain amount in, a lot of people will just keep going, even if it's all clear you shouldn't. And I looked at what I had. I felt like it was good. Still felt like I had something important that I wanted to say and that I wanted people to read. And I also felt like I needed help. And so I decided I was going to keep going, but that I needed to get help. Because nobody had read anything, any of the book. Hardly anybody had read hardly any of the book. And that's when I started reaching out for grants and residencies, and that changed everything. It was just having other people saying, this is valuable, here's a little bit of money, come stay at our residency.
Yeah.
And that just kept me going till the bitter end.
Yeah. What was maybe some of the most I mean, it's kind of a big question. But if you want to maybe pick out a few things or a couple things, what was some of the most difficult stuff to get through in the research and this? It's not just the research, but then it's the synthesizing of that, being able to talk about it in a way that the rest of us can understand, right? Normal folks can understand.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the most difficult parts of that, and maybe the most like some enjoyable or some surprises along the way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun question. I discovered that what I most hate writing about is law. So we think law is black and white, like a law has been passed and we know it, but it's not black and white. It is very complex, and you can find one thing, but then there's background, and it's just like, holy crap. It was just stressful because I just wanted to like give the answer about what the law says, and it wasn't that easy. But the other piece is that I felt like it was very important for me to incorporate science in the book. And my science teachers from high school would be very surprised that I guess I could be called a science writer, because there's science in that book.
There's a lot of real
There's quite a bit of science in the book. And I had to like find things that were accessible enough for me to understand. Then it is hard when one wrong word can change the meaning of everything when it comes to science and probably some other things. And if you don't understand what you're saying, you can get it all wrong with one wrong word.
Yeah.
And so just being really careful in transcribing like my understanding from what, and then checking and double checking, and then having somebody look at it to fact check it. That was hard, but also satisfying. Like, I'm not good at science, but I am curious about the world and how everything works, how my body works, how nature works. And then the fun part for me, what I found, and I didn't know this till I'd done it, was I really enjoy writing about history. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, it's fun, and that for me was easier to have a voice, and I didn't have to fight like for every single word. Yeah.
Well, and those are those parts where you're in particular, I'm thinking of those moments where you're imagining yourself into Alice James, or you're conjuring Alice James's life and things that's happening around, and
and just learning the context of her world. And I can feel my face changing just thinking about Alice James. And the world that it wasn't the world she introduced me to, it was the world that Jean Strauss, who her biography introduced me to. This 19th century Gilded Age where toxicants were really just starting to be sort of infiltrated, not just into the rivers and air, but into people's homes. And but also just I'm always interested in context. So the context in the 19th century, and how like the interesting ways that there was overlap to me in the context for what's happening now.
At what point did you say to yourself, okay, I gotta start writing, like I've been researching long enough, I gotta kickstart this?
That was like about 6 years in. And there was a feeling, like I didn't feel like I was putting it off. I know some writers feel like they're procrastinating and they have to sort of kick themselves in the butt to move to. It is scary starting a new project, but I feel like for me, it was a bodily sensation of, okay, I know enough. I feel like I have some expertise in this now, and I'm not just an imposter with this whole broad base of knowledge. And of course, then like I started writing, I had some knowledge. I knew some things I wanted to write about, but it like sort of, well, I wrote about chaos theory and fractals, And like one way to think about fractals is like maybe veins and arteries, and
Yeah.
like how they continue to divide and divide
Yeah.
in sort of self same shapes. It's hard. That's the best I can say as a non-science
Yeah.
person. Um, and that's kind of how the book unfolded for me. Like I kept learning more stuff that was relevant, or getting curious about more stuff that was relevant.
Yeah.
Like I was curious, could chaos theory be related to all this stuff that I'm thinking about? Could it be applied to medicine?
Right.
And then I started digging into that. And it's like, yes, some people are actually
Yeah. Think
applying
about
chaos
that.
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was really satisfying to find that.
That's great. Chapter 5, Minefield, is such a pivotal chapter, I feel like, in the early part of the book, because it's when multiple chemical sensitivity becomes like you become aware of that as a thing, you in it. So I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit to that discovery, and then also how your growing training and experience as a social worker helped you sort of like process. I mean, I know maybe work on yourself, or also understand that in relation to other people.
Yeah, I feel like that's two questions.
It
So
is.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna answer the first, and then I might
Yeah.
have a repeat on the second. But
Yeah.
the first one is, oh yeah. So what happened was I was sick. My illness started with a case of mononucleosis, which is a common way that it starts, but it can also start in a variety of other ways. Case of COVID, there's so much overlap between COVID and ME/CFS. And I've already spaced. Where am I going?
Multiple chemical
Oh yeah.
sensitivity.
So it started with that. And then after a few years, I started developing a sensitivity to chemicals. And so I would get headaches when I was exposed to fresh paint, formaldehyde in new furniture, perfume and cologne, air fresheners in bathrooms, hand soap in somebody's. I think the first time that I remember having an experience was I just used somebody's hand soap, and it was like, I don't remember, like they use all these fancy harvest peach or something like that. They use this language to make it sound like it's natural, even though it's just made from chemicals. And I started getting a headache. And so that became like a new dimension, and pretty, it's really difficult to live your life that way, because it's like the world gets smaller and smaller as you get sensitive to more and more chemicals, and it's just hard to be out in the world. You could go out to a show and somebody's wearing perfume, and then you've got a wicked headache, and it lasts the rest of the night. Other people get other symptoms. And so I was dealing with that. And then I was curious, like, where is the overlap? Like, what is the overlap with Alice James? And a friend of mine who is a professor of English at UNE, Jennifer Tuttle, who that wonderful librarian, she introduced us.
Okay.
Jennifer was just coming from California to teach and run the Maine Women Writers Collection. And we had lunch, and this is in the book. We had lunch, and I was like, I'm trying to find this like common thing. And she was talking to me about industrialization, and then she handed me, the next time we met, an article about arsenic and the wallpapers. And I was just like, I just went on like an arsenic bender. I was just like fascinated, and I found all these old papers like from that time, and about arsenic in the wallpapers and whether or not it might be making people sick. So there's that piece. And now the other question was,
where was it? Your experience as a social worker.
oh yeah,
and like it seems like such a key thing that you were doing that as your job
yeah,
in the midst of all this. And like,
yeah,
I would imagine using that as a way to help yourself, but also using it as a way to understand other people and was happening around you.
yeah. And it's like so important. Like, so I ended up becoming a therapist. I was a therapist for 15 years, and I love getting therapy. And I would like for most of the people in the world could benefit from therapy, I think, and they're all different kinds of therapy for different things. And a lot of people with these kinds of illnesses that are multi-system illnesses that have not been adequately studied, that primarily strike women, what they hear from their doctors are, there's nothing wrong with you, the tests are showing that you're fine, you should go see a therapist, or you should take this anti-anxiety med. And I have friends with long COVID who went through the same thing much more recently than I did in 1989 when my doctor told me I was just depressed. So therapy is really important in helping people cope with these life-changing illnesses, and it's not going to cure the illness. And I loved therapy so much, I thought I might like to become a therapist. And I ended up studying for my master's in social work at the University of New England. And it wasn't until I was teaching social work, where I was quite a ways into writing the book. I was that was maybe 2017. And I was teaching this foundational course called Human Behavior in the Social Environment that was foundational for me and also mind-blowing, because instead of pathologizing people, it taught us to look at the cultural context for why people might behave in certain ways. And then I started teaching that, and I realized, oh, my whole book is totally social worky. It's like I'm telling this personal story, and I'm looking at all these social contexts to explain like why all the impacts that this illness that can be contributing to this illness and other illnesses, and maybe most, if not all, illnesses can be impacted by our culture, by the toxicants that we bring into our homes and that we live in our environments, by the stress that we live under in this extreme capitalist culture that now has this whole other layer of authoritarianism going on, and by the limitations of our medical system, which sees people as a mind or a body. Go to a therapist because we can't find anything wrong on the tests, instead of being able to sort of see people as more integrated.
Speaking of integrating different things, as a segue, I wanted to ask you about your cover a little bit. I'm just wondering, like, obviously we've got Alice James over here, a canary.
Yes.
Like I love the cover, and I'm just was curious, like how it is there any story behind it, how it came about, or like,
I love that you love the cover, because I love the cover too. And let's see. I mean, when I feel really fortunate. My publisher just treated me really well. And I think usually publishers are somewhat collaborative about covers. And so the authors, they might ask, like, what are some covers that you like, and what are some colors or some images or whatever. And so I did give them some stuff. And the first stuff that came back to us, I was like thrilled to have a cover. So I was like, yes, it's great. And my agent's like, no, that was not going to sell the book. And then the same cover artist came up with this, which I just loved. And around the outside here, so this side is Alice James in a frame, but this is an image that I had sent to them amongst many. And around the canary is like a chamber from when they used to take canaries into the coal mines, and they would put them in these like chambers to help them recover if they had been exposed to chemicals in the coal mines. So I think everybody knows that canaries were used to, if the air is bad and it's going to be dangerous to the miners, the canary would get sick first. But they would put them in that thing. And it's just so subtle, like you can't really like, unless the author tells you, or the artist, you don't know. So, and then we use this green background because arsenic was most often in a green dye. It was in other colors as well, but green is what it's really known for.
That's great. Glad I asked. Let's see. It's 2020, your book was published in 2023.
Yeah.
It's 2025. I'm wondering if there are things that you have learned since that time, like that you wish that you could put on in the end of the book. I mean, obviously the end of the book turns
Yeah.
toward COVID and I believe mentions long COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at that part today. I don't know if you're like, are you following that? Like,
I'm following long COVID.
Yeah.
And I have, as I said, I have friends with long COVID, and like, it's just so disheartening because people are getting sick. I know a lot about what that feels like. You're going through your life, you think everything's great, and you think you're strong. You can't imagine you're ever going to be disabled. That only happens to other people. And in the case of long COVID, you just get a case of COVID. It doesn't even have to be that. It can be a mild case, and like, and it can be like starting with that right away, that you start having like debilitating fatigue or other symptoms, or it can sort of creep up on you later. There weren't enough doctors to treat ME/CFS, and there aren't, and a lot of them actually pivoted so they could try to help long COVID. So now there are more sick people and fewer providers who actually have expertise in it.
Yeah.
And just and there was some research that was being allotted, and now that's, as far as I understand, I think that's been cut. And so like there was some hope that maybe with long COVID, with an infusion of research, that would benefit not just people with long COVID, but also people with ME/CFS.
Yeah.
And other
Related disease.
Related disease. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And but
Yeah.
now, I mean, they'll find a way to keep doing it, but these illnesses have been under-researched and underfunded since they first sort of started coming to light in the 80s.
Yep. I want to check and see if we've got questions from our audience. We do. That's exciting. Thank y'all. How did you come to arrive at the form your book took? And was Alice there all along? I think Alice was there.
All along.
Yeah.
But the form, Gibson and I were just talking about this before we got on, which is one of the great benefits of us actually being in the same room together and hanging out, is that I am not a linear thinker. I am terrible at telling a story from beginning to end in a linear way, in a chronological way. It's just not a skill I have. The way that my mind works is it leaps around and makes connections. And it turned out that that's exactly the kind of mind that this book needed, because of all these contexts. And so for me, it actually happened naturally. It wasn't like I was writing it one way and I decided, oh, I should actually write it in segments and sort of mix in like one segment that's about science and then another that goes back to Alice and then another that's like, I didn't plan that, but it just, that's what comes naturally to me.
Yeah. Yep.
It's fun to me.
And
it's like putting together a puzzle.
Absolutely. I was going to say too, and I just happened to know this along the way. I think you were able to publish a number of the pieces from the book, or at least one major piece.
Did one piece. I actually, by the time I was done the book, I had all kinds of big plans for what do we call those? Companion essays.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't do anymore. What I did do is like piece together one that's sort of an excerpt from the book.
But there was an early piece that's related that got published in like some magazine, didn't it?
Well, I did a piece.
No, because you also won a literary award for a piece of it, right? Was that a piece of this book?
Yes, I did. I won a Maine MWPA, Maine Literary Award for an early draft of like chapter 1 or something long ago. So there is that.
I'm just thinking of
And-
the things along the way in part that helped
Yeah.
clue you into the fact that you were moving in the right direction.
And the
So,
other,
and like those residencies seem like
Yeah.
those were key things.
and that I didn't win.
Oh, you were
I was a finalist.
Okay.
And but as you were talking, I was thinking about like my first national publication was an essay called The Butterfly Effect.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Actually.
Yeah.
It's not from this book. It's a separate thing.
It's not,
Yeah.
but it's related.
It is
because
related, yeah.
it was about my multiple chemical sensitivity.
Yeah.
And in that case, I was interweaving my story with traveling with this challenging illness. It's really hard to travel with it.
Mm-hmm.
And to go to California to see the monarch butterflies, and then telling the sort of related story. It's not obviously related, but to me it's a related story about the decline of the monarchs. And I loved collecting monarch caterpillars and raising them to butterflies when I was a kid, and I was so excited to go see them in California. And that was published in that did win like a contest in creative nonfiction.
Yes.
And then it won a Pushcart Prize.
That's what I think I was thinking of. Yeah, I remember that.
And that was right when I was discovering, the lyric essay,
Right.
where you don't have to write in a linear narrative. You can write chunks, and there's a way you can weave it that everything's interrelated, and the spaces in between are actually part of the work.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a very practical question, and it's related, which is, as you're doing all that weaving, how did you stay organized? So many notes, so many sources, so many things that you're trying to bring in, and this associative brain that's like popping off in different directions.
Whoever asked that, I just thank you for asking that question, because since finishing American Breakdown, now I'm using Scrivener. Which I should have been using for American Breakdown, and I tried at one point, and I am terrible at technology, and my husband is my tech support, and he has no experience with Scrivener, so he was not going to be any help. And and the first time I tried Scrivener, it like froze up my computer, and so I was like, no, I'm just going to do it my way, and my way is like really slow, which is part of why the book took 20 years, like Word documents, and also because of that, like that thing where it's like really important, you get one wrong word and you've changed them. I would usually type the whole quote from whatever book or article I was reading, and I would put it in quotes so I'd know it wasn't my words, it was somebody else's words.
Important.
And then later I would type all of that up, and then later I would organize. First, I would like figure out what are my subjects, like what are the key subjects in this chapter. And I would have those as like little subheadings, and then I would like cut and paste all the quotes into the different subheadings, and then I would just write from there.
Right, sort of stitch it together. Yeah, right on. That's good. I'm glad somebody asked that question. It's not the most efficient way, I'm sure, but I don't know that I could do it any other way, even with Scrivener. Yeah, it worked. This person writes, I'm wondering how Jennifer's health is these days. And one of the thoughts I had while reading this is that my workplace has a scent-free environment policy. Staff are asked not to wear perfume or candles, have candles on their desks, etc. So I think this type of thing is becoming more common, thankfully.
I am so happy to hear that. Like, I was somebody who felt, and still do, like I can speak up, but there are lots of people who are afraid to speak up. They're private, or they don't want to be judged. They don't want people to think they're crazy. And so I would speak up, knowing that I don't remember the numbers, they're in the book. There are a lot of people who have sensitivities to chemicals. So knowing I was speaking for others. So I love that, hearing that about your workplace. And then what was the other part of that question?
How's your health?
Oh yeah.
If you want to go there.
No, I do want to go there.
If you obviously don't.
I do want to go there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole I can't think of there's a whole arc.
Yeah.
There's an arc in the book that I'm not gonna go into, but I can say that right now it's been iffy. It's been a bit of a struggle, and it's frustrating. It's been worse, so I'm one thing about being completely debilitated on the couch, unable to do anything, this gives you great gratitude for being able to do something like sit up in a chair and do an interview. But I'm not able to be as productive as I'd like to be. And for me, part of my work as a person with this illness is this combination of like wanting to get better with also just learning to accept what it is. Because when you're mad at your body, you're actually creating more stress for your body.
Right. Yeah. We were talking about it a little bit beforehand. Are you willing to talk a little bit about what you're working on right now?
So, yeah, the last few years of writing American Breakdown, I was like, I am just so ready to be done, and I just got to keep going. I just got to keep going. And I swim in the Presumpscot River in the summer, and about 3 times a week I drive there, and I love it. It's like joy, peace, connection. And so I'm writing a book. The current title is River Swimmer, and it's about swimming in the Presumpscot, and it's about the people and animals that I meet there. And it's about it also, basically, this is a book that I'm writing to recover from writing this very research-based book about some hard subjects. I wanted to write a book about something that brings me joy, and I wanted to write a book that had little to no research in it. But then, like, I can't help myself because it's like context.
Yeah.
And the place where I swim is right above a dam. And so learning about the impacts that dams had on Indigenous people back when settlers first started coming here, learning about the impact that dams had on the migratory fish, including salmon. And also the place where I swim, which to me is this idyllic place, but it's a place, it is that place because of that dam.
Yeah.
And it's also that dam is there in part because it was a place where there was a gunpowder mill in the 19th century for several decades, I believe. And so that context is in there too. And that gunpowder mill, I think it provided I know it provided a lot of the gunpowder that was used in the Civil War. And also that was used for westward expansion. So there's all kinds of interesting
connections, complications.
Yeah.
We've also just got some lovely comments here.
I'll read those.
Yeah. This person says, in your bio, you mentioned you have a Great Dane, chickens, and an untamed garden. Love that, hearing that. A kindred moment. Would love to know how many chickens you have. I have 12 and they all have names.
Oh my God. Right now we have, I was going to say we have 3 chickens, but that's not true. We have 4, but the 4th is an indoor chicken because she's 15 and she went blind, and one of the young ones tried to kill her, and my husband saved her before that happened. And so she lives inside where she's safe with us. Her name is Gertie. And I think that answered.
That's, yeah.
And the garden is a complete mess right now. It's really extra wild because my energy has been focused on other things.
This person just says, not a question, but a comment. Parts of this just made my skin crawl, thinking of everything we touch, wear, consume, and how we trust that it's safe.
Yeah.
Lots to think about moving forward.
That's the piece, is like, we trust. I thought, well, the government is keeping me safe.
Right.
The government has these rules to protect us. The government, I mean, I literally am just laughing right now, but I really believe that the government's role was to protect us, but that is not actually how our government is working, or has been for a long time.
Right. Sort of related, the book ends with a call to action. American Breakdown ends with a call to action, and you provide a list in the appendix of things to do and think about. Is there anything you would want to add to that now?
Now. The big now. Well, I'll say this. When I was writing the book, I mean, I was focused on what's wrong. I mean, this body that is dismissed and ignored largely by medical science, and we're in this culture that doesn't always provide us the best environments for our health. And I wanted to write that. I wanted to write about what's wrong. But I also, as I was writing, really strongly felt like if we only write about what's wrong and don't give people something they can do, people leave feeling depressed, discouraged, and no action happens. And like, that's not helpful. I mean, I want people to have knowledge, but if you just have the knowledge and get depressed and don't do anything, then that's not helpful. And the problem is, like, I was feeling, I mean, I finished writing this book, I think, under the first Trump administration. And I wasn't feeling a lot of hope. But I really felt like it was really important to convey some hope. What I did was I read Rebecca Solnit's Hope in the Dark, which really helped give me some context. And she has a new book out that is also about hope. I don't remember the name, but I would say look for that. But it really helped me see how saying that, like, how being defeatist and saying like it's just everything's terrible and it's only going to get worse actually gives power to the people in power and isn't accurate. And if we think about like what we know about chaos theory and the butterfly effect is like sometimes a really small thing like the flap of a butterfly. I mean, it sounds cliche, but this is like the foundation of chaos theory, that like the flap of a butterfly's wing in Texas can cause a tornado in Japan or whatever. Like, we don't know the ways that our small actions are having ripple effects and can lead to big shifts. And a lot of times, and this is totally from reading Hope in the Dark, when it seems hopeless, then there's like a shift and it's not linear.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way. And so I think maybe what I would say right now in this moment, even though I'm discouraged about what's happening right now a lot, is that we don't know what the future is. And we may think we know based on what's happening right now, but sudden shifts, and especially when the people coalesce and rise up, I don't even want to say more than that. And that hand gesture, because that's just like, that's where it's at.
You mentioned Rebecca Solnit. Is there anything else like that you've read recently that's lighting you up? That's something that is related. It could be related or unrelated.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I don't know if I can remember specific titles, but what I am doing is seeking out funny. So, what is her name? I hadn't even heard of her before. Of course, I'm not going to remember. Oh, Sloane Crosley.
Oh yeah.
Right? She's she's an essayist. It's memoir, and it's funny.
Grief is for People. That
one.
Yeah.
Which you'd think, how can that be funny? Because it's definitely about grief, but it's also funny.
Yeah.
Every single one of her books, I've read them all now. They're all brilliantly funny. Like, more people should know her name.
Yeah.
So go out if you want something light but smart.
Nice.
That's going to make you laugh. Go get some Sloane Crosley.
Great. I think we're at about an hour, and I think we've. I mean, we can talk for another hour, but we should probably stop there. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I want to thank Allison and Samson. I want to thank Genius for running TAC. I think that thanks for being here.
And thank you, Gibson, for all those great questions.
Yeah,
that was really fun.
Thank you for all the questions from the audience. Those were great. So hope you all have a good night, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you all. We really appreciate you being here, and just want to do one little reminder that join us in August 5th, 7 o'clock, with Nick Fuller-Googins for the next installment of Read Me. And I just want to thank London, and just wanted to comment on her indomitable spirit and perseverance. And I'm so glad that we ended this talk on a message of hope. So thank you all for being here. Power on.
Thank you. Have a great night.